Welcome in, y'all, to another giant overreaction to 2024 draft edition, y'all. It's been a minute since I got to come up here, chop it up with y'all on some live vibes, man. Big salute to the gang that been supporting the videos we've been dropping throughout the offseason. I think we got about 10 videos out there now. I put out my last draft thoughts right before the draft. I think that was draft day or maybe the day before that, man. So big salute to y'all. I see my homie in the chat was saying this was kind of interesting timing with the Knicks game. Y'all know, man. Y'all know. Don't care about no Knicks over here, man. It's all New York Giants over here one time, man. Had to get these draft thoughts out here on YouTube. I just came off Bleacher Report for about an hour talking about the same topics. Stopped into my homie Base's space on Twitter, man. They were having some really good conversations over there. And I just wanted to get my thoughts about the draft out and, you know, just on the YouTube sphere bright and early so people could just absorb this content when they get a chance to check it out, man. So big salute to all of y'all for tuning in, man. Y'all already know I appreciate the vibes, man. Feels good to be back live here on YouTube as well, man. So big salute to y'all for that, man. Let's see what we got in the building here. I already see people are pulling up, man. And yeah, we're gonna be talking about this draft, and there's been some mixed, you know, kind of reviews on it and whatnot. And I think a lot of people who wanted to get a quarterback in this draft, like how I did, you know, kind of feel a little bit let down. But I was kind of warning people, man, you know, make sure that landing is soft for you because there's a really good chance that the New York Giants and Joe Schoen are not gonna draft a quarterback, and that's exactly what they did. They did not address the quarterback position. So we're going to have probably another year of Daniel Jones and company. We did add Drew Lock to the roster, so we'll see how that pans out as well. But again, man, like I said, really good to be back here doing a live on YouTube. I mean, like the whole StreamYard setup almost feels like foreign. I've been doing so many streams on Bleacher Report. We just hit 26 streams today on Bleacher Report. So shout out to all of y'all that came over there and supported me over there and whatnot. And yeah, man, you know, this draft, I just think there's been a bunch of mixed reviews. There are some players that people really have not, like, you know, had a chance to get familiar with and dive into their tape and really see who they are and what they're about. And I think there's just a lot of assumptions, people just kind of going out there, checking out statistics. They see a player's name that they might not recognize and they think, oh, this might be a bad draft. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, you got some of these people that are just like, they don't even care what's going on. Whatever Joe Schoen does is gospel. They think it's the best move in the world until it isn't. And y'all know I'm not one of those people, man. We're going to definitely keep it realistic over here at all times. Not optimistic, not too pessimistic. Sometimes I'm guilty of being pessimistic. But y'all know what it is, man. Let's get right to it. I see a bunch of y'all in the building. Shout out to Kai, Big Dog. I see Ben Ball, you in the building. Bluegrass in the building, man. My homie, The Beard, is in the building. Let's go, man. Y'all had a great draft, by the way, Washington. Y'all had a solid draft. I think the NFC East as a whole entire division had a really good draft, man. But again, I see Sigma in the building. Shout out to all of y'all because we ain't been going live on a regular basis. So it's good to see y'all pull up when we do go live. So let's talk about this, man. The draft kind of panned out exactly the way that we thought, I'll say, at least for the first 4 picks. Some people did have speculation that the Los Angeles Chargers were going to go with Joe Alt at the tackle position, but I kind of thought that they were a threat to kind of go out there and get Malik Nabers. And Joe Schoen did say, I'm excited about the young core we have together and the guys that are under contract. I feel him on that, but, you know, here's the thing about that. Those guys that are under contract, if you're going to be preaching patience, listen, some of these guys' contracts are about to expire. Some of these players like Evan Neal have been struggling their whole entire tenure here with the New York Giants, and you might be thinking about trading them. So when it comes to patience, I get that for this draft class, but when you go back, you revisit Joe Schoen's first 2 drafts, I think patience is kind of running out here, you know, in year 3 for this regime. But top 6 picks went something like this. Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels went to the Washington Commanders. That pick really hurts. I ain't gonna front. I really wanted a quarterback of that kind of caliber on the New York Giants. Drake May went to the Patriots. Marvin Harrison Jr. went to the Cardinals. Joe Alt went to the Chargers. And then the New York Giants pulled the trigger and went Malik Nabers with the 6th pick, which I think Malik Nabers is poised to be a really, really solid wide receiver 1 in this league. Day 1 should hit the ground running. We're definitely going to talk about him. Coming into this draft, right, I wanted to prioritize superstar players. If you've been watching what I've been talking about on Bleacher Report, I've been talking about go get me some superstars, right? We need some players that, especially offensively, are going to come in here and make a major impact, right? Score touchdowns, right? Make this offense churn. The rebuild for the New York Giants has been should be more dedicated towards the offensive side of the ball. And we saw that. We saw a focus on the offensive side of the ball. You know, coming into this draft, the previous 2 drafts, Joe Schoen had only drafted 4 offensive skill positions before yesterday. Wan'Dale Robinson, Jalen Hyatt at wide receiver, Daniel Bellinger at tight end, and Eric Gray at running back. And, you know, the way I like to put that is you got one true contributor and a maybe, right? So the maybe being Jalen Hyatt. Now, we missed out on a ton of prospects. I know over here on YouTube, y'all probably weren't as privy to the prospects that I was really high on. So I just want to run through this list. I ran through this list on Bleacher Report as well. Michael Penix was way up on my board. I was on record saying that I would draft Michael Penix at 6. People thought I was absolutely insane, which I might be, but you saw the Falcons they drafted him at 8. So that goes to show you that NFL GMs and NFL locker rooms and NFL front offices were looking at Michael Penix as a guy who could be a starter in this league and be a first-round pick. And they got Kirk Cousins over there, and they still pulled the trigger on him. Some people looking at that pick like it might be crazy. I think it's great insurance at the quarterback position, and I think it also means that they're likely going to probably try to deal Kirk Cousins probably within 3 years. The dead cap hit for the first 3 years of that contract are extremely high. I think it drops down to about 30-something million in year 3, but really high on Michael Penix. Xavier Legette was my guy. If we were going to go out there and draft Michael Penix at 6, I was going to try to get Xavier Legette with the second-round pick. He ended up going, I want to say the last pick or the second-to-last pick in the first round to the Panthers. But if we went Michael Penix at 6, you would have had an opportunity to bring in a guy who will be a potential wide receiver 1. Not of the caliber of Malik Nabers, but you had A.D. Mitchell out there. The Bills ended up going with Keon Coleman, who I thought was another candidate for that. He was on my list as far as prospects go. Love Troy Franklin, who ended up falling all the way to the 4th round. Trey Benson went to the Cardinals. I was really high on Trey Benson. TJ Tampa, okay, so of all the picks, Drew Phillips is probably the most, puzzling pick for me in the 3rd round. And TJ Tampa sitting out there on the board, and we didn't pull the trigger on him. For those of y'all not familiar, TJ Tampa, Iowa State. I thought he was the hardest hitting cornerback I've seen coming out of college ball in a really, really long time. So I thought that Drew Phillips pick was just a little sus. Braden Fisk went to the Rams. He was also high on my draft boards. Rams had a really good draft. Washington, Rams, Eagles, Patriots, they all had really good drafts. I think the Giants had a pretty good draft too as well. Cameron Kinchins was going to be a safety I would have targeted later. He ended up going to the Rams, and he ended up coming off the board a little earlier than I thought. And we ended up going Theo Johnson at tight end. Love that pick. We're gonna get into that a little bit. I would have waited to go tight end a little bit longer. I would have 7th round, Tanner McLaughlin out of Arizona. I think possesses a lot of the same kind of skill set that Theo Johnson does, and the Bengals end up bringing him in. Jarian Jones was another guy. He went to the Jaguars. He was the cornerback 2 for Florida State. I loved Florida State, as far as just breeding players that I thought were day 1 ready to go in the NFL. So interesting draft. Let's get right to it. Those were some of the prospects that I was really high on. I'm trying to see if I might have missed some. I liked running back Ray Davis out of Kentucky too. The Buffalo Bills ended up getting him as well. I thought that was a great pickup. Bit of an older running back at the age of 24. He's going to turn 25 during the season. But I thought he just had the skill set to be able to hit the ground day 1 and be, a good tandem with Devin Singletary for a running back by committee type of vibe. Let me just see what y'all talk. I'm going to try to tap in with y'all after every little segment I do here. So Sigma Surge says, I'm really worried on what we'll do at quarterback. Yeah, if Patriots coach was on the phone, Drake May would have been ours. I think that the Drake May stuff was a bit of smoke, to be real, because look, there were reports that the New York Giants were trying to trade for Brandon Ayuk along with the Patriots and the Washington Commanders. How are we going to trade for Brandon Ayuk and also be able to have draft capital or any capital at all to trade for Drake May? So I just think it was smoke. I think the Giants either wanted to stay put where they were at throughout the entire draft or trade back. And they ended up staying put and ended up going with Malik Nabers, which I really like that pick. But that's a good point. I mean, going into this year without a quarterback, man, it's frustrating, man. Another season, 3 straight years with these guys. And, we're talking about all the way dating back to 2019 before the New York Giants have drafted a quarterback. So, it's getting frustrating for us that have wanted a quarterback since, I'll say, middle of the Joe Judge tenure. It's just getting extremely frustrating. But I'm with you on that. Let me see. The Beard said Audric Estime going to the Broncos was a great pick. Yeah, Audric Estime was on everybody's board. He was a sleeper, I'd say, around January. And then by the time we started getting to the draft, everybody was talking about Audric Estime. I would have much preferred a guy like Trey Benson. Blake Corum was there for us, too. I thought we could have went with Blake Corum, but you would have had to draft your running back a little bit earlier in the draft. But I definitely like Estime. I just, Estime don't possess that dynamic, that I want, that elite speed and top end stuff. But between the tackles, a really good running back for sure. Shout out to Marjorie in the building. What's going on, fam? Hope all is well. See all of y'all. My day one's in the building. What's up, Talking Eco? Hope you all right over there. Jay Bones in the building. Yeah, so let's get right to it, y'all. This draft, there was a couple of things that frustrated me for sure. These being a couple of them. No trades, no quarterback, no trenches. That really bothered me, okay? They did address offensive line in free agency, and a lot of people, giving me flack when I said, no trades, no trenches, no quarterback. They're like, oh, but we brought in all these offensive linemen in free agency. They brought in Jermaine Illuminor. They brought in John Runyon. They brought in Aaron Stinney. They brought in Matt Nelson. That's cool. Y'all know I'm extremely high on Jermaine Illuminor. I was probably talking about him before anybody else you heard talking about him. I was talking about Jermaine Illuminor in January on Bleacher Report. And, as soon as we brought in Carmen Brasillo, I was like, oh, my God, this is a perfect match made in heaven, man. And they bring him in, and that made me extremely happy about it. But I'm worried about the depth, right? Like, are you banking on guys like Joshua Zidu and guys like Marcus McKeithen to, raise the level of play and raise their productivity and possibly pan out to be better draft picks than they appear to be already, have dealt with injuries as well, and also just when they have been on the field have not been that great, to be honest. So, I do think that this is a better approach than last year. Joe Schoen went out there. He gave Daniel Jones the big contract, $160 million, right? And he banked on his youthful talent on the offensive line developing to protect his $160 million investment, which y'all know all throughout last season I said that was a terrible idea. So coming into this year, addressing it in free agency, I think that's cool. But, I would have liked to have dipped possibly and brought in one of these interior offensive linemen. You had Cooper Beebe right there for the taking, and the Giants didn't get him. I don't understand. And then the Dallas Cowboys end up taking him a few picks later. Dallas Cowboys definitely addressed that offensive line in a major way, and they always seem to draft well on their offensive line. And the Giants, not so much, kind of trying to avoid the big names and whatnot. Now, Joe Schoen said this about the quarterback position. He said, you can watch all the film you want, but there's reasons that at that position guys succeed and they fail, and it's not just because of the tape. Like Joe Schoen, I think sometimes just be telling us stuff to just make us feel better about being a New York Giants fan, because to me, that's a bunch of hogwash. It's like, we've seen Daniel Jones tape. We've seen Daniel Jones as a leader for this football team. He's very quiet. He doesn't lead this team in a vocal manner. You see him in the press conference. He doesn't have that dominating demeanor. On Bleacher Report, I talked about this. If you see that clip with C.J. Stroud and Micah Parsons going around the internet right now, just look at how C.J. Stroud is talking to Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons was telling C.J. Stroud that the NFC East was the best division in football entering the year. And the way C.J. Stroud just stomped out that fire and had Micah Parsons up there looking like an unintelligent football mind was pretty impressive, okay? And that's the kind of guy that I want at the quarterback position that we obviously don't have. Joe Schoen said that, on starting Jones this year, he said that's where we are at. That's what we're going to move forward with this season. Daniel is still under contract for 3 more years. That just tells me that I want to see Drew Lock get some snaps this year. Shout out one time to the homie Hasbig. He says, Cam Ward going to change our lives. And I hope that's the case. He was in the transfer portal this year. He should come out and be a dog at the quarterback position, in a year from now. And I would love to bring in a quarterback like Cam Ward with that dynamic type of running ability, but also with the big arm, able to make all the throws across the middle, outside on the boundary. The dude is a beast. So I'm hoping he has a really good season, maybe not too good where he might climb these draft boards and be the number 1 quarterback off the board. Right now, the general consensus seems to be that Shadur Sanders is going to be the number 1 quarterback off the board next year, but you never know. Jaden Daniels came out of nowhere, and, quarterbacks end up just coming out of nowhere. You never know who's going to ball out, and you'll see some new names get put on the map, so we'll see how that goes. But I've been on Cam Ward. I got big receipts from a year and a half ago about Cam Ward and Michael Penix Jr. Y'all know I've been on this quarterback agenda for a really long time, but shout out to Hasbig, man. That's a great point right there. Big dog status is in the building. What's going on, fam? Hope all is well. Trying to keep this as concise as I possibly can. We're going to try to keep this stream to about an hour so that everybody can get all the information, that they need from this stream if they don't already have it, and not have to be sitting up here for a normal Giant overreaction. Y'all know how I do. I might go 3 hours and whatnot. So the picks in this draft that the Giants had, they had 6 picks in this draft. Number 6, number 47, number 70, 107, 166, and 183. And they spent the first pick on my guy, Malik Nabers. And listen, if you don't know about Malik Nabers, this dude should hit the ground running and be very similar to another LSU wide receiver that the New York Giants drafted. And I know a lot of content creators out here were saying that about Jalen Hyatt. I never quite went there. I did think that Jalen Hyatt had the skills to be a wide receiver one at some point in his career. I didn't think it would happen overnight. And obviously last year there was a big issue with the quarterback getting him the ball until you got Tyrod Taylor in the game. And when you got a rookie going into the huddle telling your quarterback, hey, man, just throw it up, that's not a good sign of what's happening at the quarterback position. But Malik Nabers is an absolute dog. 6 foot, 201 pounds. He put up 1,500 yards and 14 touchdowns this past year. Probably the best route runner in this class. You could maybe say Marvin Harrison Jr. is right up there with him. Great productivity against some really big-name schools like Alabama. Had 171 yards on 10 receptions and a touchdown. 9 100-yard games, y'all. He had 9 100-yard games. Just 4 of his games, I want to say, were not 100-yard games. And in those games, 2 of those 4, he was over 85 yards. He had 4 games over 140 yards. I mean, this dude's productivity at LSU was absolutely ridiculous. Now, the one knock that I'm seeing people talk about with Malik Nabers is that he's better suited in the slot, because he doesn't like to use his hands off the release too much. You know, he tries to dip and kind of avoid defensive backs like that without using his hands. So I think that's the one thing he's probably going to have to improve on when he gets to the NFL. But the dude is an absolute dog, and we've been waiting for a pick like this. This is the kind of pick that like anybody in our fan base could have made. I can't give Joe Schoen too many props on this one, but at the same time, he didn't reach on a quarterback that I didn't want personally, like J.J. McCarthy, who Greg Cosell came out and said that he didn't even have a top 10 grade on J.J. McCarthy, let alone a first-round grade on J.J. McCarthy. I do think J.J. McCarthy can be a pretty decent quarterback. He went to the Minnesota Vikings, which puts him in position to really turn up over there. They got all the weapons you could possibly need, and I think that he should be able to succeed and be able to, you know, take the keys from Sam Darnold over there, maybe mid-season this year, maybe as early as mid-season this year, but definitely by next season. So we'll see how that goes. We got a super chat from the homie one time, Talking Eco. Talking Eco says, don't want to hear any Giants fans complain when Nabers goes at DJ's neck for missing him or not seeing him on a play. All right. Yo, first of all, big shout out to Talking Eco for the $4.99 super chat, bro. Definitely appreciate that. Y'all know that support is how this channel can exist, man. That is major. I definitely appreciate that. Now, let's talk about what Talking Eco is saying here, okay? I'm in 100% agreement with you on this, okay? And here in my notes, I actually said that Malik Nabers kind of reminds me of Des Bryant with his demeanor, not his play style, but his demeanor. And he is the kind of guy that he's a little rough around the edges. Y'all saw him when he pulled up for the, the first meet and greet with the coaches. The dude is dapping up the coaches with the most stoic face on. He did not even smile. You heard his comments about Daniel Jones, which I have right here. They asked him about Daniel Jones and his thoughts on Daniel Jones. He said, I'll wait to get here to see all that. I'm just happy to be here. Josina Anderson had asked him about it pre-draft, if he were to go to the Giants, how he would feel about that. And he said, going to New York wouldn't be a bad idea. He said, the quarterback situation, I know they're going to figure it out, especially if they have a wide receiver of my caliber. That is a guy who is he is about himself. He is very Malik Nabers centric. So I think that the Daniel Jones, Malik Nabers, it would not surprise me if we see, something like we saw with Kenny Galladay on the sidelines. I believe that was in Washington at that game, so that's something to definitely monitor. And I think the New York Giants know it. They're committed to Daniel Jones, but I think that's just for the rest of this year because of the contract. Who knows if Daniel Jones is going to even be able to start every game this season? I mean, he's coming off a big knee injury. He's been hurt 4 out of 5 seasons already. But that's a great point, Talking Eco. And I see Joseph Clark's super chat. I'm going to wait till I get to this second pick to bring that one up because it'll kind of relate and keep things in the format how we want. Big shout out to all of y'all who pulled up, man. 300 people in the building. We had over 300, 400 people over there on Bleacher Report, man. I know New York Giants fans are extremely excited, man. So big salute to y'all for pulling up, man. If you're new here and you digging the vibes, we cover the NFC East. The show is called Awthentik and the Beard, the best division in football. We do this 4 days a week, man. If you digging the vibes, hit the subscribe button. If you ain't digging the vibes, hey, let it fly. Y'all already know what it is, man. I'm not over here trying to, win no bonus points with nobody, just trying to talk ball, and I appreciate all y'all pulling up on your Sunday afternoon during a Knicks game. So, yeah, big salute to y'all. But we're going to get to Joseph Clark's super chat once we get to the second pick here. But to just round out Nabers, man, again, 9 100-yard games. He could be the best wide receiver in his class. I like Marvin Harrison Jr., and there's a ton of hype around Marvin Harrison Jr. Would it surprise me if Malik Nabers ends up being the better wide receiver of the two? It would not one bit. And to grade that, I'm going to give Malik Nabers an A grade on this one simply because I wanted a quarterback. It would have been an A+ grade, but we didn't get the quarterback, so I got to knock it down just one little half a notch and get this one an A. But big shout out to Joe Shane for making a solid pick and not overthinking it, just like handling business, getting yourself a really good player. I think that's very important in the draft process. Joe Shane did a really good job of balancing BPA and balancing needs that he needed at position. So big salute to him for that. Now, the second pick that the Giants went with, and I love this pick. At first, I was kind of like, he went safety round 2. That might be a little bit early. There were some cornerbacks on the board. My homie from Michigan was on the board. TJ Tampa, who fell way down draft boards, he was still on the board. I'm a big fan of TJ Tampa, but Tyler Nubin is so damn good at the safety position, man, out of Minnesota. We used the 47th pick on him. He's just 22 years old. He'll be 23 in June, 6'1", 200 pounds. Dude was banged up during the combine, okay, because he ended up tearing his meniscus. And he played through that in the last 6 games at Minnesota. He went back to school simply to just like prove a point. Like, I'm here for my teammates. He could have came out last year. I was talking to Sal about that just in the Twitter spaces. And the dude had 13 career interceptions. He is an incredible instinctive ball hawk. Reads the quarterback well with great anticipation, like really, really good anticipation. I think the only thing that he can't do is play single high safety. That's the only thing I think he can't do. Much better suited off playing the cover 2, cover 3, cloud type of role or box safety type of role. He lacks speed, I think, to play the single high. He ran a 4.6 40-yard dash, which is about as fast as I run a 40-yard dash. The beard be talking about he could run a 4.6, so that goes to show you the speed ain't that great. I don't trust what the beard is saying, but it is what it is at this point. Very rangy with his anticipation. He can bait, read, and react. So, like, you'll see this dude, he knows the quarterback's looking one way. He'll try to bait you by taking his back pedal to an angle opposite of that way and then just drive on the ball. And he's a ball hawk, like I said. He'll go get you those interceptions. I think that he also possesses great leadership skills. You saw it at Minnesota, directing what was going on, not only in the secondary, but getting guys in position all over the field. I think he could be a captain one day for the New York Giants. I really do think that. Not as a rookie, obviously. And we saw what happened with Xavier McKinney. I think that by Xavier's 3rd year, he was a captain. And then he ended up going to Cabo, flipping the ATV, busting his hand up. And that's not the kind of stuff that captains are supposed to be doing. So I'm excited. I'm really, really excited about this pick with Tyler Nubin. I think he can be a really good player for the Giants. He was mentored by Antoine Winfield. Played 13 games in 2021. I know that was a while ago, but this statistic just stood out to me. When he was targeted, quarterbacks had a quarterback rating of 21.5 against him. Really good. The Giants, we don't re-sign safeties. Y'all know what it is. We haven't re-signed safeties in a minute. Let Landon Collins walk. Let Xavier McKinney walk. And, we tend to sign safeties from other teams and whatnot, brought in Antrell Roll and stuff like that. I said this on the Bleacher Report stream as well. I think that Tyler Nubin is a little bit more Landon Collins than he is Xavier McKinney. But I do think he possesses some skills and some traits from both of them. I think he could be a better safety than Xavier McKinney. And Nick Saban said Tyler Nubin is probably the best safety in the draft, and he also had him on his NFL draft all-defensive team as the starting safety. That's coming from Nick Saban, and we all know Nick Saban absolutely knows ball. That's a damn fact right there. So for Tyler Nubin, I give that one a B+ grade, straight up. I think that that's going to be one of our better picks from this draft. I'm happy about that pick. And I know he wasn't on a lot of people's radar because this safety class was not really full with a bunch of safeties. The only, 2 safeties I had my eyes on was Tyler Nubin and Cameron Kinchens out of Miami, who I thought, Miami breeds them safeties. Ed Reed, Sean Taylor, Kenny Phillips. I was like, man, let's go ahead and get another Miami safety, and we could probably get Cameron Kinchens in the later rounds, maybe 5th through 7th, and Kinchens ended up going a little bit early than I would have liked. Now to get to Joseph Clark's super chat, I thought this was a great assessment as well. He says, I love Nubin the player, but preferred Sam Risto. That's homie from Michigan, Mike San Risto, at 47. I think you could go either way because a lot of people, they like BPA, right? They want to go best player available, but I think that's a better strategy when you have a team that's in place and ready to win. Like you saw the San Francisco 49ers. They're going out there, they're drafting wide receiver Ricky Pearsall in the 1st round, and then they're going out there and I think they traded up to get Isaac Gruendo, the running back, who had the great combine workout, great 40 time. like they got CMC on the roster, but they're able to go out there and just go BPA, no problem, because they don't got holes on their roster. Now, the Giants did have a hole for the cornerback position, obviously, but safety was also a hole with Xavier McKinney. We do got Deonte Banks there on the outside. So, they addressed cornerback in the following round. I'm not extremely hype about the Drew Phillips pick in the second round, but I'm not too mad at the strategy. I feel you, Joseph. It's not the way that I really would have approached it, but had you have gone cornerback here, I don't know that Tyler Nubin's going to be on the board when you get to the third round. Would I prefer to have San Risto and Tyler Nubin, as a tandem better than Drew Phillips and Tyler Nubin? Absolutely, but there's no telling that would have happened, and sometimes you got to just pull the trigger. Better safe than sorry, but definitely appreciate the super chat, Joseph, man. You've been rocking with us for a grip, and I've been seeing your takes on Twitter. You putting out some good stuff right now, man. Big salute to you. And big shout out to the homie Tuto, one time in the building. What's going on, Tuto? Hope all is well with you, fam. Good to see you in the building. He said massive salutes and respects to ATT. We got to change that K to a B one time, but that's a little bit of a short thing for Awthentik. I like that. The maestro and all diehard Giants fans across the pond. Greetings from our entire rugby club, currently training in UK. That's what's up, man. Big salute to you, Tuto. Appreciate you pulling up, rocking out with us. For those of y'all that don't know, I know all y'all know Tuto, but Tuto is the biggest supporter in the Giants community, not just at this channel here, like literally with every channel across the entire Giants YouTube community, man. So you already know, man, big salute to you, and I appreciate you pulling up, man, and bringing the flowers in hand, brother. Thank you. Appreciate that, fam. All right, let's go ahead and get off into this next pick. God, we're doing good time, too. We're on a good time right here. And let's talk about Drew Phillips, man. We just talking about him a little bit there with the Tyler Nubin pick. Andrew Phillips, cornerback out of Kentucky. We used the 70th pick on him. He's 5'10", 190, 22 years old. He had a top 30 visit as well. He is a very versatile cornerback. And don't let the 190 pounds fool you at 5'10". He's a dense build. That's what I noticed about him in the press conference and the way that he plays the game. He plays it a little bit bigger than 190 for sure. He stood out at the Senior Bowl. He can play outside. I think he's a little bit better suited at the nickel position simply because the top end speed. He's an extremely smart player, played around 30% of his snaps in the slot. I think he's a pretty good tackler, could use better angles at times is what I got here on my notes. The dude has a ton of reps against top-tier competition. I was talking about this on Bleacher Report as well, too. Went up against Xavier Legette, went up against Tennessee, went up against Georgia with Lad McConkey, Brock Bowers, went up against Florida, Ricky Pearsall. These are all first-round talents, second-round talents here we're talking about. And very aggressive in press coverage, but I don't think that that's going to translate to the NFL level. I think if he's in man-to-man coverage in the NFL, he might be able to get exposed a little bit. The stat that stands out on his resume is in all of his college tenure, he did not have one interception at the cornerback position, which is absolutely crazy. He had one interception I saw when I was digging through his tape late last night. It was against Vanderbilt. It got called back by a penalty, so I know he was feeling Rich Homie Quan some type of way about that. Just 10 PBUs on a whole entire college career. That's not good either. But I think he has a really good, solid ability to undercut routes and make plays underneath. That's where I think he excels, is underneath. With his lack of top-end speed, I think like best case scenario, he could be like a Richard Sherman type of situation where he's better suited in zone. But the one characteristic he don't got that Richard Sherman was really good at is Drew Phillips can get bodied by these big wide receivers. If you put like a Mike Evans out there on Drew Phillips and you just throw the go ball one-on-one, Drew Phillips ain't going to be able to make that play. He was getting exposed route and route out on plays where he had to deal with bigger wide receivers. The dude is getting mossed a lot, and I think that's something to worry about for sure. So I think he should be better suited in the zone. And another note I had on him is he goes for the strip a lot when he's tackling rather than just, and what I loved about TJ Tampa's like, you catch the ball, I'm laying you out. Form tackler, really good, stepping up in the run. With Drew Phillips, he tries to go for the strip a lot. 0 forced fumbles in his career at Kentucky. So let's stop the stripping a little bit. I think, you got to get back to form tackling. Shout out to my Pee-wee coach, Coach Mike, man. He really instilled that in us. Not that I was out there tackling. I'm telling you, defensive days, I was taking a break, y'all. You need a wide receiver to run routes against the DBs, that's me. But I ain't out here tackling nobody. Y'all know what it is. But he's definitely going to have to work on that. Joe Shane did mention that Andrew Phillips and Cordell Flock can both be interchangeable. So I would expect to see, those guys both playing the boundary and both playing a little bit of slot nickel cornerback as well. The one thing that kind of bothered me about this pick just a little bit was that We didn't address offensive line in this draft at all. And I get it. He went out there and he addressed it in free agency. That's cool and whatnot. You brought in 4 players for the offensive line. There's no guarantee that these guys are all going to pan out. And there were some good offensive linemen on the board here. Cooper Beebe, y'all know, was one of my sleepers. I talked about him a ton. The dude is built like Billy Bob from Varsity Blues, got trunks for legs. And when he pulls and gets out in front of these running plays, people just want to get out his way. He was on the board. And like I said earlier, the Dallas Cowboys ended up taking him. And then UConn's guard, Christian Haynes, he was on the board as well. Zach Zinter was on the board. You know, arguably the most, I won't say the top guard on people's board, but the most notable and like known guard on the board was Zach Zinter. A lot of Michigan games on TV and whatnot, and a lot of people were familiar with him. But Joe Schoen decides to, you know, go a different direction and bring in Drew Phillips at the cornerback position. He's been extremely high on DBs during his tenure here. 24 players now after this weekend's draft have been drafted by Joe Schoen. 7 of them have been defensive backs. So definitely getting defensive back a little, you know, kind of happy there. The DB room doesn't look that great, so I am glad that he assessed it. Cornerback-wise, you got Nick McLeod, Darnay Holmes, Trey Hawkins, Cordero Flott, and Deontay Banks. Outside of that last name, ain't none of them dudes scaring nobody. So I would definitely expect to see him play the slot. And, you know, I noticed that he was getting kind of Randy Mossed on some of his tape. And Connor Hughes, you know, who covers the Jets and the Giants, he also said the same thing. He said bigger wide receivers are going to big boy him. And, yeah, I don't know. Drew Phillips might be a guy that you don't see really getting too many reps. Maybe early you see him kind of being an experimental guy, seeing what he can do when they put him on the field like they did with Trey Hawkins III last year. But I don't really see him being a contributor in his first year. I think he can be a guy that you can develop and possibly, you know, in maybe a half a year at least, or at least a year, you bring him on the field and hopefully he's developed. But that's been the problem with the New York Giants. We all know that. Developing players has not been our strong suit. We got to find a way to get that just better. Just like, I don't know what it is, if it's in the scouting department, if it's in, you know, your coaching. They did go out there and get Carmen Brasillo for the offensive line. And, you know, Jerome Henderson has been really good on this defense. So I'm not too sure how they're going to figure this out, but like, I'm giving them a little bit of leadway and the benefit of the doubt that, hey, you guys have not developed in your first 2 drafts that well. I'm going to be a little bit patient. Joe Schoen is saying be patient. I'm going to be patient. And I'm not going to allow, you know, the Giants not going out there and drafting a quarterback, you know, force me into thinking that, oh, they didn't get a quarterback. This draft is horrible. Go out there and do it for yourself like I did last night. I'd say like half the draft picks weren't on my radar. So I had to do a lot of studying last night and really check out what was going on with some of these players, especially in the later rounds in the draft, you know, like 4 through 6 for sure. The running back out of Purdue, for sure, I had to check him out and whatnot. But just do yourself, you know, that diligence and go check out the tape. It's all on YouTube. They got, like, games of all these players every snap. And if you need some All-22, I got a couple little plugs on some All-22 for some of these players as well. Just hit me up. Y'all know the email. Y'all know the Twitter. Y'all know what it is. I'll bless you however I can. But, yeah, I see TC915 in the building talking about Cooper Beebe. Yeah, man, that dude, man, I don't know how they passed up on Cooper Beebe. Illa's in the building, man. Hey, listen, everybody who's here right now, we got 395 people in the building. I like to shine the light on some of these content creators that, you know, they putting a foot in this game and not a lot of people seeing their content. Go check out the Illa NYG's channel. First, you got to check out his video about Joe Schoen and when he first came over from Buffalo. I think that video is almost 2 years old now. It's one of my favorite videos from any content creator, just dropping nothing but raw facts. And if your feelings is in the way, he might not be the guy you want to check out. But he definitely drops gems, and I've been seeing him ramping up the content on his channel. He's been killing it over there. When I pop in and check out what he's doing, sometimes I'll be the only person to be able to comment on it after a whole day of the video being up. But I promise y'all, that dude no ball, and he not gonna give you no, you know, unicorns and rainbows. He gonna give you that real funk, that real P-funk, that real Bootsy Collins I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? And he gonna tell it like it is. So big shout out to the Illa in the building. But as far as grading the last 2 picks, I think it's like a B plus. With the Tyler Nubin pick, with the Drew Phillips pick, I'm going to go C- on that one. I don't see it. I don't see any elite characteristics from Andrew Phillips that really make me go, oh, this dude going to be a dog one day. Looks like he could be a physical dude, but I'm not too sure about it. Shout out to the homie Nick the Wick in the building. What's going on, fam? Salute to you, man. Hope all is well. Stephen White is in the building. Gang is in the building. Yo, New York Giants are in the building today. It's a lot of us, and I know y'all are either very excited about this draft or you like, man, why they didn't get my quarterback, man? That's kind of crazy why they didn't get my quarterback. So we're going to talk a little bit more about it. Let's continue, keep going down this line here and keep talking about some of these draft picks here. The fourth pick is one of my favorite picks here, man. And y'all know, if you've been tuning on to the Bleacher Report streams and whatnot, tight end was definitely a position that I wanted to address. Not as high as the fourth round. That's not where I would have done it. I would have done it more in the sixth or in the seventh round with Tanner McLachlan from Arizona, who I knew was not on anybody's radar. Extremely quick, fast, agility. He can make those vertical catches. He literally has the same kind of skill set as a Theo Johnson. I think Theo Johnson might be a better blocker in the running game. But I've really liked Tanner McLachlan out of Arizona, and not a lot of targets. Very similar as far as the productivity goes. I think Theo Johnson only had like 30-something receptions in his last year at Penn State as well. But Theo Johnson was dealing with a lot of competition over there at Penn State. Every year that he was there, he was never the focal point of the tight end room. So that's why his productivity was pretty low. I think that Joe Schoen saw some tight ends coming off the board, Jatavion Sanders being one of them. And he was just like, all right, I think it's time for us to go out here and get our tight end that's going to likely replace the role that Darren Waller had, who's contemplating retirement right now. And like I said on Bleacher Report just an hour ago, don't be surprised if Darren Waller, if he doesn't retire, that Joe Schoen and them just move on and just keep him in the doghouse and do like how they did with Kenny Galladay. That would not surprise me at all. But Theo Johnson, tight end out of Penn State, 6'6", damn near 260 pounds, and the dude runs a 4.57. Just think about that. 6'6", 259 coming at you at 4.5 speed. That is absolutely ridiculous. He started all 13 games in 2023. He plows through defenders in the blocking game. Like, the only thing I saw on his tape that kind of worried me a little bit was that he's such a tall stature that getting low for some of these blocks can be a little bit of an issue for him. But I think that, they'll refine some of that when he gets to the NFL level. Let me see what my homie Kenneth Perkins is in the building. He says, hey, Awthentik, do you think rebuild of the roster isn't below what it should be? So this is what I think, and I've been saying this for a while. The rebuild is not necessarily for the whole roster. The rebuild, to me, is really for the offensive side of the ball. The offensive line needed retooling. You absolutely needed to just destroy what was happening with that wide receiver room. And year by year, Joe Schoen has done that, brought in Wan'Dale Robinson, brought in Jalen Hyatt, and now you brought in Malik Nabers. Those are three guys now that they've drafted back to back to back that all should be around for a really long time. So they've addressed that. Talked about offensive line. You lost Saquon Barkley, so you brought in Devin Singletary. You absolutely needed to draft a running back as well. We're going to be probably operating by running back by committee. I think that's important. So you went out there and you drafted a running back. So for me, defensively, they already had a lot of key pieces in place. Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau. You now brought in Brian Burns to go play that other side and rush the quarterback from that edge. You drafted well, brought in Deonte Banks. You got a steal in Jason Pinnock, who was a guy, I believe, that was a UDFA that we got from the Jets. It would have been nice to have Xavier McKinney still there, so you had to readdress that. And then cornerback 2 was obviously an issue. Joe Schoen bringing in Bobby Okereke. My God, that's one of his best moves right there. I love Bobby Okereke as a middle linebacker holding it down, making Micah McFadden look a lot better than, I don't want to say look a lot better than he is, but just helping him, making him be a better player. Because first year, Micah McFadden did not look like that. I didn't see that kind of guy on the tape in his first year. And then you bring in Bobby Okereke and Micah McFadden looking like, man, he's on his way. So definitely like what I'm seeing out of the rebuild on the defensive side of the ball. And I think that it's kind of behind us now. You're going to keep adding some players here or there. You need some depth on that defensive line. Thought they might have addressed that in the draft, and they didn't. But yeah, I think you just got to keep addressing the offensive side of the ball. And then once you get the quarterback here, we're going to be all good to go. Once you get the right quarterback in the building, a decisive quarterback, that's going to help this offensive line out in a tremendous way. I've been telling people this like for months on Twitter. You look at all the quarterbacks on the roster last year. Tyrod Taylor took the most snaps of any quarterback, had the most dropbacks of any quarterback last year on our roster, and he was sacked the least amount. He was only sacked 18 times out of 85 times. So all the other sacks from our quarterbacks came from Daniel Jones and from Tommy DeVito, two quarterbacks who are extremely indecisive. And PFF also has our quarterback room credited for 40% of the sacks. this offensive line was not as bad as people envisioned it last year. I'm not saying it was really good or nothing like that, but it was not as bad as people thought. And if you put a decisive quarterback back there, y'all know my saying, a decisive quarterback is the best offensive lineman. That's all they need to do. So big shout out to Kenneth Perkins, man. Appreciate you pulling up, rocking out with us in the building, man. I see Mr. Mini Guy is in the building. What's going on, fam? Hope all is well with you, my G. Let me see. Kenneth responded to it too, and he said, okay, but it's not a full rebuild if they ain't addressing the quarterback. You're right. And look, I think that they just felt they weren't in position to get the quarterback at 6. You could blame Tommy DeVito for that 3-game winning streak last year, right? We were already in a top position. I'll never forget this, and I posted the clip to our Twitter. Me and the Beard was talking about it, and I told the Beard, I said, I bet you that the New York Giants are going to have a better, or, well, can't say better, we're going to have a later draft position than the Washington Commanders. I believe we were about a game and a half, 2 games back at that point from the Washington Commanders, and that's exactly what happened after we went on that 3-game winning streak and ended up beating my doppelganger, Jordan Love, and the Green Bay Packers in a very surprising win. So you're right, man. They got to get the quarterback. I'm not sure how often you pull up here, Kenneth, but, like, I've been banging the table for quarterback for a long time, man. And people are like, oh, man, you know, you're always hating on Daniel Jones and all this stuff. It's not that. I've seen enough, man. We're 5 years in. We're going into 6 years in. And shout out to my homie Bass, who hosts the Twitter Spaces. He talked about this in our group chat today. He said, tell me another quarterback that's going into year 6, right? In the history of the league, went into year 6 with the same team that drafted him, and the expectation wasn't to win the division. There really ain't none. I told him Alex Smith, maybe. You could say Alex Smith by year 7, they were 13-3 over there in San Fran, and before that, they hadn't won more than 7 games. And he was injured for his 6th season. He was injured for the whole entire year, but he's the only other quarterback you could compare to that. So are we banking on Daniel Jones still turning into Alex Smith? We can't keep doing that, y'all. Y'all know what it is. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. Come on, man. It's shame on me at that point. So, yeah, you got to absolutely go out there and get the quarterback. I'm in total agreement with you on that one, Kenneth. To just finish out a little bit more about our 4th-round pick in Theo Johnson here. He tied for the team lead with 7 receiving touchdowns. He's a really, really good red zone target. Kind of reminds me of Dawson Knox, not with the play style, but just like being able to find the openings in these zones and be able to settle and sit down in the zones and find a way for his quarterback to see him and then in return get touchdowns for his team. Tied the team lead with the 7 touchdowns. He played wide receiver in high school at Canada because Canada, you know, they prep players for the CFL. And there are no tight ends in the CFL. So he played wide receiver, and he's kind of converting to, you know, trying to get to be a better tight end as far as his technique, his route running and stuff like that. But he's more than capable, has all the ability, only had 34 receptions in 2023 for 341 yards, just 20 receptions in 2022. I think you could use him as a guy with his hand in the dirt, good blocker, you know, and you can flex him out and have him play a little bit of slot and kind of do some of those things that we saw from Darren Waller last year, which, you know, I think that a guy like Theo Johnson could come in and totally make us forget about Darren Waller. I'm dead ass serious, y'all. Like, this dude has all the skills to be a really top-tier tight end in this league. And his physical, you know, nature of play kind of reminds me of George Kittle a little bit, where when, you know, his quarterback was extremely inaccurate at Penn State. And when he would go up for the ball, just strong hands, big body, when guys would try to hit him when he couldn't see them and they weren't in his peripheral vision, he could just take these hits and keep it moving. He's great in traffic, can stretch up and out. I made sure to put this as a note on my notes here. He can stretch up and out. So when the ball is like high up, think about the ball that sailed over Darren Waller's head that one game, and people were trying to blame Darren Waller when Daniel Jones sailed that ball over him. Well, you know, my guy Theo Johnson's the kind of guy at 6'6" that could maybe climb the ladder and go make those kind of receptions. It looks weird because we did just draft Daniel Bellinger just 2 drafts ago in the exact same position in round 4, and Darren Waller, who was acquired for a 4th-round selection with the 100 pick. I think Joe Shane has a thing for 4th-round tight ends. I'm really, really hoping that this one pans out. You know, without the Giants doing a lot of 12 personnel last year, which kind of surprised me. You know, I was thinking Daniel Bellinger, Darren Waller will run a lot of 12 personnel with 2 tight ends on the field. They didn't do that. So I don't know why we're so infatuated with the tight end position. I think they addressed it a little bit early. But all in all, I got to give the grade on this particular pick with Theo Johnson. I'm going to give this one a B. I think it's a really good pick, and I think he has extremely high ceiling he could come into this league and be a top 5, top 10 tight end in a couple of years, I think. And I also think that he's going to be able to hit the ground running as a rookie and be able to contribute to this roster. I don't expect a lot of wins for the New York Giants this upcoming season. I expect them to be somewhere just below 500, to be honest. But I do see Theo Johnson pulling up and being a contributor to this roster. I really like this pick. I've been trying to tame my expectations. Like, I don't want to just be like A, and feed y'all fluff and whatnot. So I got to give him a B grade because I do think there's some room for him to be a guy that's like, not that great and kind of fall into that Daniel Bellinger type of, caliber of player and whatnot. Shout out my guy, Max Custom Kicks. What's going on, fam? He said, funny you mentioned it. He said he models his game after George Kittle. I ain't even see that yet. That's wild. And he admires him and Tony Gonzalez. That's awesome. You can see that physicality, man, like going up for a catch, strong hand, can be able to break that first tackle. Even if he's in the air when he takes the first hit of contact, he still has that ability to come down on 2 feet and break a tackle and keep it pushing. So very excited about this pick. Tony, Giants fan, says that Porter is the better overall back on this roster right now. We'll see. If we're talking about the New York Giants here, I really like what I'm seeing out of Singletary from the Houston Texans last year. And bringing in, the next pick I'm going to talk about, Tyrone Tracy. If you're speaking about running back, I don't know if you're speaking about linebacker. I think you're speaking on running back. Tyrone Tracy is going to definitely be able to contribute to this roster. And then Joseph Clark says, after Bowers, I think Theo has a legit shot to be the second best tight end in this draft. Yeah, and when you look at Brock Bowers, he's probably going to be converted and play a very different style of tight end than a guy like Theo Johnson is. Theo Johnson is going to give you more traditional skill set at the tight end position, whereas Brock Bowers might turn into a wide receiver type of tight end here. Evan Ingram type of vibe, with a little bit more physicality, but we'll see how things go. I'm right there with you, Joseph. I think he could be the second, possibly be the first, the top tight end in this draft. We'll see how things go, man. And it's why I didn't want to, some people were saying go Brock Bowers at 6, and I'm like, nah, man, like, you got to think about positional value when it comes to the draft. Tight ends make about, they're on the lower tier of the money scale of how you pay some of these players, right? Like tight ends, running backs. Why would you take a top 10 pick with a 5th-year option, right, and waste that on a tight end? We'd have to use that on a more valuable position. Quarterbacks are getting paid $50 million and up nowadays. Tight ends ain't making nowhere near that kind of money. So, wide receivers, I'm okay with that because they get paid a lot, and we know that wide receivers can move the needle and get the ball in the end zone. Tight ends too, but I just think that from a positional money value type of standpoint, I'm never drafting a tight end top 10. I don't care who he is. That's just my philosophy, and a lot of first-round tight ends don't pan out to be that good anyway. My homie Thal 8stead1 says Tyrone Tracy looks like a sneaky good pick. I'm right there with you, man. And let's talk about it because y'all know I was high on Ray Davis if we were going to go running back in the 5th round, another older running back. But I'm good with this pick. And Tyrone Tracy from Purdue was a guy that wasn't on my radar. I had to go do a lot of digging last night. I was up till like probably 4 or 5 in the morning last night, y'all, just like watching tape. And I knew I had to be up early for the Bleacher Report stream. I knew I was going to have to get up around 10 a.m. and get the Bleacher Report, be on there by about 11, but I just couldn't get to sleep, man. I was excited about these players, and the more I watched, I was just like, wow, man, like I think people are overreacting to the Giants not going out there and drafting a quarterback, and they kind of want to take that energy and pile it on some of these new kids that we drafted. And I get it. Y'all know I'm the spokesman for wanting a quarterback for the New York Giants, but I had to kind of like reset and, just kind of like stand on business, man. Like, look, we needed a quarterback, but like that doesn't mean I should judge all these players with a pessimistic kind of view. I got to look at it even keel. And looking at the tape, man, Tyrone Tracy really impressed me. 4 years at Iowa as a wide receiver. He transferred to Purdue. In the first year at Purdue, he played wide receiver as well. He was a 2-year starter at Purdue, and then they morphed him into like a hybrid running back, like an H-back, that really played a bit of a Wan'Dale Robinson running back role. Like when you see Wan'Dale in the backfield and the jet sweeps and things like that, he played that kind of a role, the quick hitters in the passing game and stuff like that, and really shined. I mean, really shined. He was convinced by one of his coaches to convert to a running back, and his coach had told him, if you want to go to the NFL, you better convert to running back. And look, man, it's history now. This dude is in the NFL, got drafted in the 5th round by the New York Giants, a historic franchise. I think it was an amazing, piece of advice to give him, to have him switch to running back, because that's how he got himself into the league. And the beard is in the building right now. Y'all know we cover the Washington Commanders as well. This dude reminds me of Antonio Gibson a lot, with more twitch Antonio Gibson was a former wide receiver converted to running back as well. And Gibson shows you that he can be tough between the tackles. The big problem with Antonio Gibson was the fumbles, which when you look at Tyrone Tracy's tape, he don't got no fumbles in this past year, his only year at the running back position. I think decision-making is a bit of a issue for Tyrone Tracy a little bit. You know, he's better when he knows the lane, right? When you see him on some of these zone schemes, trying to decide which lane to pick has been a problem for him, I feel like. But when he just gets downhill and he gets going, he's going to get to that second level and going to break a bunch of tackles. He is not an easy guy to bring down. Heavy thumper type of runner, reminds me of Isaiah Pacheco in Kansas City a little bit with that regards. Maybe not as of a physical runner, but just like, you know, when you see him get the first guy, wrap him up, them knees is churning and he's just trying to get more yards. That's his whole thing. And, you know, don't let the frame fool you. Like, he's 6'1", 209, but he's more built like a bowling ball. You know, like when we play up against Boston Scott, you like, man, that little bowling ball rolling down the field. He runs like that to me. Not extremely explosive as a running back. Like, he's not the kind of guy that's going to take the runs to the house like how Trey Benson from Florida State will. That's why I really wanted Trey Benson, because he does everything that all these other running backs do between the tackles, but then he also has the 4.3 speed to take it to the house. Reminded me of Eddie George and whatnot. But I do think that, you know, you go into the 5th round, you got to kind of take a little bit of you have to compromise a little bit, right? The running backs in the 5th round are not going to be like the running backs in the 3rd round. And I think that Tyrone Tracy is solid between the tackles. He'll be able to get it done. Hopefully in his first year, he can be running back by committee. And I'm hoping that he takes over the position for Eric Gray. Like, I don't see Eric Gray being, you know, a real pivotal piece for the New York Giants in this running back by committee. Normally, running back by committee just means running back by 2 dudes. And I think that these are going to be the 2 guys. Devin Singletary and Tyrone Tracy are going to be the 2. His game speed, like I said, it don't wow me that much. He had 0 carries with the quarterback under center. So that go to show you the style of scat back type of runner that he is. They're getting a bunch of runs out of the shotgun. His style also reminded me of Ahmad Bradshaw. Somebody on my Bleacher Report stream was telling me maybe like an Aaron Jones from Green Bay is a good comp as well. I like that one as well. He had a ton of big plays as a pass catcher, a ton of them. Like, when you go look at his highlights, you're not even going to see a lot of like running highlights, because whoever compiled the highlights on YouTube, I guess they were just focused on a lot of the passing game. I got my hands on 2 games of his tape. And as a runner, this dude, it's not easy to bring him down. So I'm extremely excited about this pick here. He did not breach 17 attempts until his 6th year in college. This dude was a super senior, right? So there's a lot of tread left on the tires for him as a running back. These are the stats for me. Shout out to Dan Schneider, who I saw posting some of these, and a few other people on Twitter. If I don't remember your name, my bad on that. But like, these statistics really stood out to me for a guy who was in his first year as a running back. And I think they'll be able to refine some of that as he gets into the league, get the mini camp. They'll be able to refine some of this stuff. Check these stats out, okay? So he had 8 rushing touchdowns on just 113 carries for 716 yards. That's 6.3 yards per carry. That led the Big Ten. 21.9% of his carries in 2023 resulted in 10 or more yards. That was top 5 in all of college football. He had the most yards after contact per attempt of any running back in college. 4.4 yards after initial contact. And 4th best forced missed tackle rate. This dude is a sleeper gem right here. I'm just hoping that he can just stay focused in the NFL, grind out, work harder, get better. He's obviously got a lot to learn at the running back position for a guy who's only played the running back position for a year. He's got a lot to learn. But I think this guy's going to be a really good pick. For me, I'm grading this pick at a B-. Greg Cosell, the GOAT of this tape stuff, this is what he had to say about Tyrone Tracy. He said, Tracy will only get better as a runner with more experience. Tracy is one of my favorite running backs to watch, and I believe he is an ascending talent. I'm looking forward to seeing who drafts him and how he's deployed. I'm right there with it. The one knock on him is 24 years old. Now, I see David talking about it. He's 24 right now. He'll be 25 in November, I believe it is, in this 2024 season. He's an older running back, but like I said, only 17 carries, bro, before his 6th season. He was a wide receiver playing the X-wide receiver, so he converted to running back. So that tells me that there's a lot of tread left on those tires. Granted, you got to hit the ground running because you can't be 28 and starting to get, like, your feet wet as a running back, right? So I'm hoping that the New York Giants can just implement him quick. Get him involved early and often. Anytime Singletary comes off the field, bring Tyrone Tracy on the field as a threat in the pass attack, a guy who can be a scat back. This is what I wanted to happen with Saquon Barkley, although I know Saquon could have, been an every down running back. For 5 years, I've been saying they need to pair him with another running back so that they can use him with a more versatile type of skill set within our offense. And we saw Saquon Barkley go through 3 coaching regimes that all used him wrong, in my opinion, trying to make him an every down running back. I thought that Pat Shurmur probably got the best out of Saquon Barkley in his rookie season when he had over 90 receptions and, hit the ground running with over 1,000 rushing yards as well. So we got to find a way to just use these guys right. And I'm worried about that with Brian Daboll. Y'all saw how things went in Buffalo. I mean, granted, he did have the quarterback who could, aid the running game, but they were neglecting the run. That was the whole thing with Brian Daboll in Buffalo. And same thing with all the other offensive coordinators who followed him. They just don't want to run the ball. Like, they just neglect the run. And in the playoffs, I think that really hurts them. So hopefully Brian Daboll is learning from his past, and they come in here and they use these 2 running backs, the way that they properly should be used. We saw Devin Singletary with the Houston Texans, had a lot of success. I believe it was almost 900 yards with the Houston Texans. He went over there and took that role from Dameon Pierce like no problem. So I'm looking for Singletary to come out here and, really be the leader of this running back room. But then also a guy like Tyrone Tracy could come in here and just help out this room and be the next guy in line, when Devin Singletary comes off the field. Shout out to the homie Cortez Smith one time, man, for the $4.99 super chat. Definitely appreciate that. He says, why is the world always on fire with certain Giants fans? It ain't always doom and gloom. Look at the Knicks. One guy was hoping a pick fail because no QB. So I'll say this about this. It's not just the quarterback position. It's the incompetent organization and front office that's been ran like this for over a decade. I get it. I understand why a lot of people are doom and gloom. And sometimes I actually have to fight my own, negative criticism and try to be balanced myself because it's just been so bad. Me and the Beard have been on YouTube now for 5 years, and we really have not seen really great football from either one of our ball clubs. But for me, especially for the New York Giants. So it's just, when you it's like, if somebody's failing every year, you come to just expect that, and then you just give up. You give up as a fan, and I'm not mad at them. I'll never tell anybody how to fan, but I definitely feel what you're saying too, Cortez. It's like you want to see people have some hope, and just because you didn't get your quarterback doesn't mean that you should be looking at this draft class and going, oh, man, all these players, I never heard of that guy. Well, a lot of people are casual college football watchers, and I get that, man. You can't be watching football on Saturdays, Sundays, Mondays, Thursdays, and sometimes, who knows? You might get a game on Friday in the NFL. Like, nah, we can't be doing that. So I get it, right? But at the end of the day, I think that you're doing yourself a disservice if you have criticism on anything in life that you have not took the time to study. And that is the definition of ignorance, right? Like, you don't know better, but you're talking about it. And being a guy who's in the music business as a producer, I see it all the time with artists, people being like, oh, no, that dude can't rap and blah, 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 blah. But they haven't took the time to go check that person's catalog out. So I'd say this, like, if you don't want to take the time to look into some of these prospects and some of the players that the New York Giants drafted, then you should reserve your opinions on them until you have enough details to be able to do so. So that's my thoughts on it. Big shout out to Cortez Smith, man. Definitely appreciate you pulling up, rocking out, and supporting the channel, man. We got damn near 500 people in the building. I don't even like talking about how many people be in the building, right? But like when you got 500 people in the building, how am I supposed to know? That's like what a rap concert look like, right? You got 500 in the building. That's like, man, we going to go see an underground rapper or something like that. So big salute to y'all, man. I appreciate y'all rocking out with me. We about to hit the hour mark here, so we're doing some pretty good timing here. And De'Illa had a little something to say about that too. He said 13 years, man. It ain't like this has just been going on for a couple of seasons. Everyone is pissed that really truly cares about this team. And I think that is what it is. It's like your feelings and emotions will get involved in it. Even though I'm somebody who's like facts over feelings, I can't sit up here and say like my feelings don't get invested into my football team that I've loved since the 80s. When they're not playing well, I'm right there with you, De'Illa. I definitely feel you on that. Let me see what my homie Simeon talking about over there. Simeon said, when you can't put a good offensive line together in 10 years, a fan begins to lose hope in the process. Right there with you. The Beard chimed in. He said, I think also it's like the hope got with the change of GM and head coach. And the fall of last season hurt that hope of their initial season. That's a fact because, 2022, a lot of us knew it was a little bit of smoke, easy schedule, some lucky one-score wins. 7 of them. I won't say all of them was lucky, but 7 one-score wins. We kind of like got out to a really good start early as New York Giants. And, 7-2, and then we kind of started to slow down a little bit. And I think the end of the 2022 season was very telling. It lets you know what we should have expected going into 2023, which is why I did not want to pay Daniel Jones that contract. I would have brought him in for less than a Geno Smith contract, which was $28 million a year. I'd have been okay with that. Let me say that, because I wouldn't have brought him in. I more wanted to explore the bridge quarterback market with guys like Gardner Minshew, guys like Jacoby Brissett. I was even mentioning Marcus Mariota. You saw Baker Mayfield. Joe Flacco even have some success and got himself a one-year deal this year as well. That was the route that I wanted to go. And I think that not only did the New York Giants fan base, but also that front office started to see it with a little bit of rose-colored glasses. And even Joe Schoen mentioned that exact term in his press conference, and he talked about it. You go out there, you win 9 games. My man, Mike Lombardi, who does the GM Shuffle podcast that a lot of Giants fans hate because he talked about the, what was the term that he used? I wanted to say nepotism, but it wasn't nepotism. The disease of me that he talked about. A lot of Giants fans don't like him because of that. But he also said when he talked to Brian Daboll after the 2022 season, that Brian Daboll, he could tell he was feeling himself a little bit too much, and he thought that they could win games with this quarterback on the roster. They still think that because they've committed to Daniel Jones for another year. So that's what it is, man. I think they made some mistakes. It's time to put them in the past. But as far as, Tyrone Tracy, I give that pick B-ish. I something about it wants to say C+, but I'll go B- for this one. Still kind of trying to gauge a little bit more about Tyrone Tracy. There's limited data about him, which makes it a little bit puzzling. But, a guy who I think can really run between the tackles, break tackles, get some extra yards after the initial contact. I'm excited to see him get, into mini camp, get acclimated with the New York Giants, and hopefully he can be a piece. I'm sick of seeing these 4th through 7th round draft picks for the New York Giants not pan out outside of guys like Micah McFadden. So, yeah, we definitely got to see these guys start to contribute. And Joe Schoen is saying be patient, but really what it is you got some of these players that their contracts are going to expire soon, and some of these players that just aren't panning out, guys like Evan Neal, that we can't be patient with them. It's time. They got to start to improve and get better and start to be contributors. That's how I see it. And the last pick that the New York Giants picked with their 6th round selection, with the 183rd pick, was linebacker Darius Muasau, Hawaiian boy out of UCLA. Undersized linebacker at 6 foot, 225 pounds, 23 years old. He's a box linebacker with a little bit of a shorter frame. Kind of reminds me of that Sam Mills type of vibe. And I do want to send condolences out to Corey Cunningham's family, man. Lost him to mental health. Same thing I did on Bleacher Report, man. Like I said, man, don't pile on people's mental health issues, man. Don't be one of them dudes with a canister of gasoline, on social media, internet, wherever you at. Not everybody got thick skin, and it does take thick skin to be an NFL player or whatever you're doing. You don't know what people are dealing with in their mind. I always say, man, just don't be that dude pouring the gasoline on the situation. Rest in peace to him, man, and condolences to his family. But Darius Muasau, played 3 seasons at Hawaii, transferred to UCLA, played 2 seasons there, 5-year starter, over 90 tackles in 3 of his 5 seasons. The dude is a field general. I spent probably the most time last night researching him. There was a thought in my mind to be a little bit lazy on Darius Muasau, right? Because he's a player that was so off my radar, and just like a 6th round pick. I was going to just pull a draft profile from somewhere else, but I was like, man, I was just up late night. I was like, let me just do all my studying on these later round picks that I'm not as familiar with. And looking at him, I went and looked at some of his interviews from when he was in the transfer portal, and he was going to UCLA. Young kid, and he was just saying all the right things. And I could tell from what he was saying that the dude was definitely in that room looking at tape. I could tell that, right? And then in one of his interviews, he said it. He's like, yeah, I know I'm undersized. I know I don't have the speed. So I'm in that room looking at the tape, trying to get an advantage on all of these schools. I know that I got to be a leader. He talked about when you're a middle linebacker, you can't not be a leader. It reminded me so much of Daniel Jones, because when you're a quarterback, there's no way you could just walk around that field, unless you Eli Manning, and not be riling players up. It either got to be with your play, or it got to be with what you say vocally in that huddle or in that locker room. And Daniel Jones, to me, lacks both of those skill sets. And to hear a young linebacker like this understanding, this was 2 years ago he was talking about this, understanding that if you're a middle linebacker, people are going to be looking to you as far as what to do. Man, I played quarterback on JV, and I converted to a wide receiver my junior year and played wide receiver on varsity. When I was the quarterback, I knew what everybody's responsibility was on that field, not only on the offensive side of the ball, but on the defensive side of the ball. My buddy Patrick played middle linebacker, and me and him will be talking about it like, yo, this is what you got to be doing here. You have to be that kind of a leader when you play one of the most important positions on your side of the ball. So I'm hype about Darius Muasau. Like, I think it's a good late pick, and we didn't need that much depth at the linebacker position with Bobby Okereke and Micah McFadden out there. We didn't need grand depth there, but I think that they just went with the best player available with their last pick in the draft. Now, he's undersized, like I said, so it wouldn't surprise me if he could convert to an outside linebacker, especially in Shane Bowen's system. Shane Bowen runs a 3-4. At times, he'll run a 4-3 that's masked, or a 3-4 that's masked as a 4-3 with 4 guys on the line. And then if you remember the video when I dropped it here on YouTube about Shane Bowen's scheme, he runs a lot of creeper blitz where you have one of those 4 linemen drop back into pass coverage, and then somebody from the second level, one of the cornerbacks, one of the safeties, will drop down in the box, and then they'll become a pass rusher. So for those of y'all that saw guys like Kayvon Thibodeau in the Wink Martindale system, dropping back, going into pass coverage, expect a little bit of that with Shane Bowen, but in a different style, right? And this is why Shane Bowen's blitz numbers have been extremely low. When he was in Tennessee, they're like, oh, they don't blitz at all. Don't get it twisted. You're going to see people coming from different angles at the quarterback. That's where I think a guy like Darius Muasau could come into play. He is the kind of linebacker. He doesn't have the great top-end speed or nothing like that, but he has good handwork to be able to get after the quarterback, and he has decent coverage skills. He's not lengthy, but I do think that he possesses the skills to be able to be a guy who can be a middle linebacker, drop back into Tampa 2 coverage, and be able to run down the field with some of these tight ends and possibly in a zone with some of these slot wide receivers. I think he possesses the skills to be able to do that. Now, as far as in the run game, there are a few things that I'm worried about just a little bit. Shout out to Michael Knight in the building. I see you, fam. But there are a couple things I'm worried about, right? He's undersized, and he does make up for that with his read and reactability, right? But he can get lost in the shuffle of big bodies. Like, I watched all his snaps from certain games, right? From about 3 games, I got to watch all his snaps. And you'll see him play the middle linebacker, run up to the line of scrimmage, read and diagnose it so fast. I mean, faster than the running back is. Like, the running back is like just getting the toss, and he's like already at the line of scrimmage. But then he kind of would just get bullied, and you'll just start to lose him in the big bodies. If you get a pulling guard coming towards Darius Muasau's way, and he's already downhill, big body, guy like Cooper Beebe with them Billy Bob trunk-like legs, it's going to be a problem for a guy like Darius, I think. You see him step up to the line of scrimmage, make contact sometimes, and get pushed back 4 yards at times. I saw that a lot on the tape. I saw a guy just getting lost in the bodies where, like, on all 22, I couldn't even find him. And he's playing middle linebacker. He steps up, I can't even find him. Running back gets through the hole and, picking up big chunk yards. So I am worried about that. I like him better in coverage. I brought up this one play that I saw on his tape that was so impressive to me. They were in a man-to-man coverage, right? And he had one of the tight ends running a mesh concept. And mesh concept, 2 wide receivers going across each other on short, shallow crossers so that they can rub and, cause like the defenders to kind of bump into each other and get an opening. The Beard knows all about this. We ran this on our flag football team all the time. And he saw the mesh concept coming. It's like he saw it on tape already once and he already knew it was coming. Signaled to the guy that was in man coverage, like, nah, go over there. And they just like audibled and turned their 2 positions into a zone. Made a great play on the ball. Man, those are the kind of things you want to see. These guys that are tape warriors, that mentally they're going to be prepared and be ready for the game, and as well have the physical kind of traits that you want to see out of a linebacker. So I'm not like all the way hype about this pick, right? Because Muasau is not like the strongest guy. He doesn't have the right type of speed. The lateral movement is decent. But I think he makes up for that. His pursuit is really good. Sometimes he can overplay. I think like he watches the tape so much that he just diagnoses so fast and he sees and he's like, I know that that's going to be an outside zone, and he tries to get to the outside, and sometimes he can over pursue. I'd look for him to be a guy who's going to be a contributor on special teams, possibly his rookie season. And then after that, maybe you see a guy who can get shifted out to the outside linebacker position. And then maybe when Bobby Okereke starts to get a little bit older, a guy who can maybe take his place. But I see him being used, especially in the Shane Bowen system, a little bit more on the outside. That's what I see, and not his first year. Just temper your expectations for him. He was a 6th-round pick. He's going to need a little bit of development. He's going to need to hit the weight room. And y'all know the meal plans that the New York Giants be having these dudes on. He's going to have to add a little bit of weight, and hopefully that doesn't lose some of his ability to be able to have the agility possible. Shout out B-Dog in the building. Nah, this is not pre-recorded. Doing this live right now, man. I'm shouting you out to let you know, yeah, we live in the building, man. Appreciate you pulling up. Shout out Cortez Smith one time with that $4.99 super chat. He says they're doing it better than Gettleman or Reese. They're drafting what they lost in free agency, which is how you're supposed to draft. No panicking from the GM. Yeah, and I'm glad you said no panicking from the GM, because what I'm seeing when I see Joe Schoen in press conferences is that he's calm. He's smiling a lot. He doesn't look like a guy whose job security is in jeopardy. He's operating like he's got a long leash. And I think that's a smart thing from John Mara, being that we've already went through, a bunch of GMs, in the past, and especially head coaches, man. You've gone through 3 head coaches that only got 2 years apiece. You can't keep doing that. You cannot keep doing that. So I'm okay with, like some continuity in the coaching department and in the front office at the general manager position. I'm going to be patient, y'all. Like, I'm cool. Like, I don't think Joe Schoen had really good drafts the first 2 years he was here. But I'm going to be cool. I'm okay with it. But that's a really good point you bring up, Cortez. And I definitely appreciate you, supporting the channel with that, man. And yeah, I got the other one from you. That's 2 super chats from Cortez, man. Big salute to you, bro. I appreciate you rocking with us, man. And all of y'all in the chat, y'all know what it is, man. We can't do this without y'all. I always tell the Beard, like, it's like when I step up on a live, even though I'm by myself, I feel like I'm talking to y'all. And if there was only like 5 people in the building, well, we're going to have to do what we got to do. As my homie Ethan says, 2 or 2 million, you still got to go out here and rock the show and do what you do. But when you got 504 people in the building like we do right now, yeah, I feel like I'm talking to the fan base and I'm talking with the fan base. I appreciate all y'all coming in here and weighing in y'all opinions and all that. Y'all know that Awthentik in the Beard is a community that's built on like letting people share their opinions. Like, you can have your own opinion. I'm not going to bash you for it or nothing like that. I'm not going to look at you sideways. We should all have different opinions. If we all got the same opinions, it's one of 2 things. Something is really wrong with what's going on with the New York Giants, or something is going really well with the New York Giants. If we a Super Bowl caliber team and everything is, unicorns and rainbows, then I'm good with it. But right now, the New York Giants are in a really tough spot, and they've been a bad team. In the last 7 seasons, we have 1 season over 6 wins. We got to get back to competing first in this division and then competing for a trophy and to put another Super Bowl in that case for the New York Giants. We got to get there. It's been way too long. We're a team that has won a Super Bowl pretty much in every decade. We need to keep that tradition going. And we've been a little bit spoiled through that Eli Manning era. And I think now, since that black cat ran on the field on, what was that, Monday night against the Dallas Cowboys, yeah, we've been a little bit cursed. But shout out to Cortez. Cortez, you've been supporting us big time. I definitely appreciate that, fam. Let me see. Michael Knight says, are these lives going to be a regular occurrence now? I would say probably not. Definitely going to get the Beard up here, and we're going to talk about, the divisions, drafts as well. But like, look, man, we're in April, at the end of April here. It's going to be a little bit of dry season. But I am going to, when I see a topic that comes out that deserves, some content for it, we're definitely going to cook up some content. But as far as like going live, we're going to bore y'all to death talking about off season, what's going on. Right now, the anticipation begins. That's what it is. You know what I'm saying? But we definitely going to tap in, rock out with y'all. Y'all know what it is during the year. 4 days a week is how we going strong with the parlay, the Tuesday recaps, the Thursday previews, the Monday Giant overreactions, and content sprinkled in between that. So we definitely hard at work over here. It's been like that through the offseason. This is the most work I've ever put into an offseason. And over at Bleacher Report, I'll definitely be doing streams over there. So, find me over there at Awthentik if you want that consistent vibes as well. I know Michael Knight was saying there were some issues with the Bleacher Report streams, but I know the replays are always up there as well. But definitely appreciate y'all pulling up. We're going to try to give y'all as many streams as we can. Y'all know how we do, man. Like, if there's a topic to be had and be talked about, we absolutely are going to do that. So shout out to y'all, my man Michael Knight in the building one time. Been supporting us for a long time, man. Big salute to you, bro. All right, so let's kind of just round this off, man. I wanted this to be a good hour. We'll say an hour and 20-minute watch for the people that get to see this And for the people on the replay, if you get to this point, put a bicep in the chat to let me know that you made it an hour and 14 minutes through the stream. Big salute to y'all, man. Y'all know we couldn't do this without y'all. And for those y'all that are new here, because I know with 516 people in the building, there's some new folks here. Hit the subscribe button if you're digging the vibes, man. We put out great content. I'm a cinematographer, a producer from the Washington, D.C. area, lifelong New York Giants fan. And, man, I'm looking over here at my rig. I finally got my rig together. And, you know, real Netflix ready, I'll say. Going to be working on a few documentaries this summer as well that are predicated towards what the New York Giants are doing, not only for this season, but seasons to come as well. So expect some kind of content in the documentary format that I promise you can't get nowhere else. I promise you that. I've been studying this film stuff for about 15, 20 years now. Been an audio engineer for over 20 years now, 30 years. Let me think about the first time the Beard had me over there doing raps in the crib. We talking like since we was like 13 years old, and I'm 40 going on 41 now. So have had some placements. For those of y'all that don't know, had a major placement in Killers of the Flower Moon, the Martin Scorsese film that just came out, did all the harmonica parts on that. So yeah, man, like I'm telling y'all, we're going to be cooking up some kind of sports content here in a second that you are not getting anywhere else outside of like NFL films and HBO Hard Knocks. I promise y'all on that. So salute to all y'all that pulled up, rocked out with us today. Let's kind of just recap what we did here and talk about this stream, you know, in total, and just kind of grade the whole entire draft class for the New York Giants before we get y'all up out of here. All right. So this is how I see it. All right. And give you a grade on that last pick. I'll say I'm going to go C+. Somebody got to be in the C range, right? We'll go C+ on the Darius Muasau pick, right? But to just conclude this, I want to talk about PFF's grades on our draft. They gave us an A- for 2024. Take that with a grain of salt because they have not given us a grade below a B- since at least 2020. 2023 was an A+, 2022 was a B-, 2021 was a B+, 2020 was an A. That shows me one of two things. PFF smoking some serious pack and their assessment's a little off, maybe a little bit. And secondly, poor development by the New York Giants. The focus for the Giants on this draft class and the previous ones from Joe Schoen need to be development. Get these players ready to go. I need to see Cordero Flott, Evan Neal, Jalen Hyatt. It's time right now for these guys to get better, be on the field, be true contributors. I can't see Jalen Hyatt go 4 and 5 games with 0 targets again. I don't care if Daniel Jones is at the quarterback position. You better find a way to go to that huddle or you know, talk to him in that headset and say, hey, we're throwing to Jalen Hyatt on this play. It's going to be open. Let that thing rip. Those guys all need to step up. Our 4th through 7th round picks need to start contributing. Daniel Bellinger, Dane Belton, DJ Davidson, Marcus McKeithen, Eric Gray, Trey Hawkins, Jordan Riley. These guys ain't done pretty much jack to this point. Daniel Bellinger, a little bit. Dane Belton, a little bit. I like Dane Belton. He's a good ball hawk. I think they could use him in a versatile role this year. I'm really, you know, looking forward to seeing how Shane Bowen uses Dane Belton, because Dane Belton just seems to be around the ball and make plays. He had a game where he had, I want to say, 2 interceptions and 1 fumble recovery. He's just around the ball. That's his thing. I like Dane Belton. But the other guys, we need to work on that. And I think for Joe Schoen, it's extremely important. You made that mistake on Daniel Jones this year 3. You gave him $160 million. It was a bad contract. It was as good as it could have been for a contract for a starting quarterback, but to commit to it, it was a bad contract. We're preaching patience right now, right? And I also think with the patience, we need to be able to pivot. So find a way to pivot off Daniel Jones next year. I don't know what it's going to be. You might be able to trade for a quarterback, a guy like Kirk Cousins. They just drafted Michael Penix Jr. in Atlanta. Who knows? Maybe Kirk Cousins is a guy that's going to be, you know, a trade candidate, maybe even this year coming up. But I would say likely in his second year with the Atlanta Falcons. But Joe Schoen, we can no longer bank on, oh, Dave Gettleman was messing this shit up. All right? Came in 2022. Shout out to Sal for giving me these numbers. I want to share these with you all. Share them with everybody on Bleacher Report as well. In 2022, Joe Schoen spent $50 million. We were in salary cap hell. That was the 31st most or least amount of money that any team had spent that year in 2022. Came back in 2023, and he spent the second most money of any organization at $251 million. And then this year in 2024, he has already spent $228 million. That's the 5th most. we're spending bread, y'all. We need results now. We got a tough schedule coming up this year for the New York Giants. Battling the AFC North is going to be extremely tough. You got games against Bengals, Ravens. You got Saints, Bucks, Vikings, Colts. Those are home games. The away games, Falcons, Panthers, Browns, Steelers, Seahawks. It's going to be a tough schedule. Just compete, go out there, try to win as many games as you possibly can. I'm not going to be rooting for the tank, none of that, until it might be time late in the season, right? You know, if we're eliminated, let's see some of these draft picks start to get on the field, these guys that aren't playing, and start to giving them some reps and getting them ready for the next season. Because if you're not going to make the playoffs, the wins is not going to matter. They're going to be meaningless victories. So find a way to get these guys on the field. And, you know, when we get here to week 1, I'm going to be excited. I want my New York Giants to win games. That's what it is, right? I'm going to be excited. So get to that trade deadline. You get to kind of reassess things a little bit, reset, get to that bye, same exact thing. You get to reset. And by the time we get to the back quarter of the season, we'll know where the New York Giants really stand. But if we get in that position where we were last year, where, man, you starting off terrible, losing all those games in the beginning. I forget what it was, 1-6 or whatever it was. We started losing games to Miami, San Fran, Seahawks. Who else do we? Buffalo Bills, the New York Jets. We just losing game after game after game after game. Don't let it spiral out of control. It's important to keep this locker room intact and the chemistry, building the culture that we know that Dave Gettleman didn't bring to the New York Giants front office or the locker room. And Odell Beckham tried to warn us back then in that interview with Josina Anderson and Lil Wayne that the culture, there were some things that was not right about the culture. And he said the thing about Eli Manning, he was kind of baited into that, where he said, man, Eli ain't going to be running or nothing like that. And he was getting old, and Odell was right about that. Eli didn't take no offense to that, so none of us should have took offense to that. The Easter egg that was underlying in that situation was that the culture was all jacked up. And now Joe Schoen is here. He's trying to build a better culture. Last year did not help that with all those losses in that locker room and all those injuries at the quarterback position. All 3 of these quarterbacks ended up getting hurt. Our left tackle got hurt chasing on a blocked field goal, pulls his hamstring, and it hurts him for the rest of the year. Those type of things we don't want to see. Putting your cornerback 1 at punt returner and seeing him getting hurt. We don't want to see those kind of things. So they got to put last year in the past and build on it and get better this year. That's all I want to see is a team that will compete within the division, especially those 6 divisional games, and then just go out there in these games. You might be outmatched from a depth chart standpoint, but go out there and put out the best football. From a Brian Daboll head coaching standpoint, I got to see you get better this year. I saw you in your first year with Daniel Jones. You had him looking like a true starting quarterback. You used him in the read option. You used him in the RPO extremely well. Balance that with running the ball with Saquon Barkley. Even though that's not your style, you went against that grain and you played to your personnel, and it worked, and we won a playoff game. And then you came back the next year, and you tried to completely just get back to your normal ways of just throwing the ball, West Coast style. And Daniel Jones was not cut out to do that. So now we know what it is. We know how we got to go into this season, and we know what we got to do moving forward. It's all about balance. I'm not expecting a ton of wins this year, y'all. I really ain't. I really am not. But like I said, I just want to see this team compete. So we'll see how it goes. Shout out to Michael Knight. I'm going to try to come up here and rock out with y'all. At least every 2 weeks, we'll try to have a stream up here for y'all. But when the season come around, y'all know how we going to do. 4 days a week. And expect the content to be coming out on this channel a lot. And like I said, expect these documentaries. I almost want to pull my camera off that tripod right now and show y'all what I'm working with, man. But I'm working with a rig. I've been building that rig for a whole year, and it's finally ready. So to those y'all that have supported us to this point, man, big salute to y'all. Y'all know what it is, man. We can't do this without y'all. And appreciate y'all rocking with us on this stream, man. That's my grade on the entire draft. I think this is just a B grade for me. And I'm not saying like these guys are all going to turn out to be B players and whatnot, but all we can do right now is assess what we have, the data that we have, the tape coming out of college, the statistics coming out of college, the interviews and all the access that we have to those type of things on the internet are extremely important, right? And we use those tools to our best capability. And I think that's the way that we can project what these players are going to be. It doesn't mean that they're going to be that. So, you know, just temper your expectations. Be patient, but in your patience, also have some accountability for this front office and these coaches on this team and these players. Because we can't just be, you know, I ain't going to fan police y'all, right? I just think we're doing ourselves a disservice if we think that every move that the New York Giants do is a great move. Like I said, put in the work, because an opinion without looking at the data, that's just the definition of ignorance. So to all my mods, I see y'all in the building. Big salute to y'all. I see my homie Lord Goofa over there on Twitch right now rocking out with us. Big salute to you, fam, because not a lot of people know about us on Twitch. Salute to you. Appreciate you holding us down, man. And look, man, that's going to be a wrap for us today. Look forward to some of this new stuff we got cooking up, man. I'm all about value in everything that I do. That's my vibe. I'm all about value. I try to bring value to everything that I do. I don't want to tune into a stream where I feel like, man, the dude just saying everything I already know. So I try to do all my due diligence and put in the research, put in the time. I've been doing it all off season, looking at all these prospects. I mean, I just stay on NFL Draft Buzz all damn day looking at these prospects. And I think Joe Shane did a really good job in this draft, man. I really think he did. We'll see how it pans out. But again, man, I appreciate all of y'all for your time today. This was the first Giant Overreaction of the year. We're going to have many more to come. I'm going to definitely keep y'all posted, man. And again, man, I appreciate y'all spending y'all afternoon with me today, y'all Sunday afternoon. And we're going to spend a lot more Sunday afternoons together, man, once the football season gets here and whatnot. I end every stream the exact same way. It's an ode to my brother Combat Jack that we lost, one of the best podcasters in the hip-hop world, maybe the best podcaster in the hip-hop world. And it's keep raising that bar, keep living those dreams, because a universe without dreams is black and white, and a universe flows in Technicolor and surround sound. Y'all know what it is, man. Y'all enjoy the rest of y'all evening, man. I'll catch y'all on the flip side, man. My name is Awthentik. Catch me on Twitter. Y'all know I talk ball on Twitter every damn day at Awthentik. If you're not up there, the conversations get a little wild. I'm going to warn you right now. But I will catch y'all on the next one. If not, check me out on Twitter. And before you head out, man, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you're digging the vibes. I can't force you to do it. You know, I hate when people start a video like, hey, man, hit the subscribe button, blah, blah, blah. It ain't giving you no value. I hope I brought value for you today, man, for all the new people that are here rocking out with us on this stream. Wait till y'all get to see my brother The Beard pull up and talk about those commanders and some of these battles we have on this channel. All right, man, I'll catch y'all on the next one, yo. Y'all be good. Peace.